female reproductive system of placental mammals, humans. Female reproductive system. Female reproductive system. The female reproductive system contains the main important parts: a pair of ovaries. A pair of ovaries. You observe that a pair of ovaries are located either sides, and this is a uterus. Uterus is a inverted pear-shaped organ. Inverted pear-shaped organ. And here we can observe that a pair of oviduct. This is called oviduct. Oviduct, also called as fallopian tube. Right here it is a pair of oviduct, a pair of ovaries and uterus, and this is the entrance of the uterus is called cervix, and a tube-like structure is called vagina. These are the parts of the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system, a pair of ovaries are located either sides of the uterus, and the ovaries are the female reproductive organs which producing female gametes called ovum. Produce the female gametes ovum. And how the ovum is producing or releasing from the ovaries. You see that inside the ovaries, when you observe the inside the ovaries, the structures are called, some cells are looking like a cellular bubbles. Looking like a cellular bubbles. Cellular bubbles. These cellular bubbles like structures are gradually developing into Graafian follicle. Develops into Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle. Each Graafian follicle produces a single ovum. Produces a single ovum. This is the way of producing the ovum from the ovary. Inside the ovaries, the cellular bubbles like cells are present initially. The cellular bubbles like structures are gradually developing into Graafian follicle, and Graafian follicle, each Graafian follicle produces a single ovum. When ovum is completely matured or developed, then the Graafian follicle will reach the surface of the ovary and ruptures, then automatically the ovum will flushed out. Ovum will flushed out. When ovum flushed out of the ovary is called ovulation. Nothing but releasing of ovum from the ovary is called ovulation. Releasing of ovum from the ovary is called ovulation. Ovulation. After the ovulation, then ovum is captured by the widened tube-like structure oviduct. The end part of the oviduct, you are observing that it's looking like a finger-like projections. The funnel or finger-like projections present in this region to capture the ovum. Then ovum can enter the oviduct or fallopian tube, because the oviduct is also called as fallopian tube. Right? The ovum is traveling through the oviduct and can be waited here for the fertilization. And here it is the one point is fertilization of the gametes, both male and female gamete, takes place in the oviduct. Right? When after the fertilization, the ovum is converted into zygote. Here it is when ovum has released, or maybe ovulation after that, you can observe the structures of the uterus. The inner wall of the uterus is called endometrium. This is called endometrium. Endometrium. The inner wall of the endometrium is forming a cushion-like structures by the formation of number of layers of blood. And when the ovum is released from the ovary, or maybe immediately after the menstruation, the ovidus or uterus is provided by a small layers of blood, and it provided a cushion-like structure. When the cushion-like structure has ready, then automatically it is ready for receiving the fertilized zygote. When the zygote has completely formed here, that can be runs down and attach the inner wall of the uterus. Inner wall of the uterus called endometrium. Once the ovum is zygote is attached to the endometrium, automatically it sinks to the bottom layers of the uterus, right? And here it is a ovum once attached to the endometrium. It's called implantation of embryo. Implantation of embryo. Right? After the fertilization, when ovum runs down and attaches the inner wall of the uterus, and once it attaches to the inner wall, it sinks to the bottom layers. That process is called implantation of embryo. Right? Once the embryo has implanted, automatically what happens that then the ovum is gradually, the zygote is gradually develops by producing some layers of around the body, and those layers and nothing but chorion, amnion, allantois and yolk sac, and these are the layers which form around the embryo for the further development and producing the nourishment of the embryo. And here we can observe that the lower part of the female reproductive system, vagina, is a tube-like structure which can able to receiving the sperm cells from the male reproductive organ, right? And here it is a fertilization occurs and ovulation. After the ovulation, implantation of embryo, and after the implantation, the embryo can be furtherly develops day by day. And usually, complete development of the embryo from the zygote, it takes usually 9 months, or it's 270 to 280 days.